you guys are going to be analyzing seismic and volcanic activity around the world. So, first off, what does it mean if you're analyzing?
Looking
at it. What else? Studying it, maybe. Breaking it down. Great. All right. Seismic. We talked about that word yesterday, but just so we're all on the same page, what's seismic refer to? Seismic activity would mean what's happening on Earth. Earthquakes. Thank you. So, now how are we going to do that? Today, your assignment that you have to accomplish, you have to get finished before you leave here, okay, is you're going to be plotting coordinates along latitude and longitude lines. Now, we're going to talk more about what those lines are in just a second. Make sure you understand them. You've probably worked with them before. In order to. Now, you will know if you have spent your time wisely in class today, if you can answer this question by the time it's time to go. It says, in order to discover patterns. So keep in mind that's what I want you to look for today when you're doing that lab. I want you to be looking and seeing if you see any patterns as you're plotting those coordinates. And then you're going to explain what happens along plate boundaries. We know there are plates. We know they meet at boundaries. We talked about that Monday and Tuesday. Today we have to figure out what actually happens along those boundaries. Now, before we leave, the question today is what happens at plate boundaries. And we're going to add that idea to our big idea chart. Now, I read over all of your little post-it notes yesterday, and I tried to condense what you guys thought was the big idea from yesterday into just one idea that I've added to our poster for today. And here's what it says, so you can come take a closer look at it later. It says Earth's crust is broken up into large plates, right, that move a few centimeters each year. How many centimeters did we just find out?
13.
Good, 13. Because of convection currents that churn within the mantle. So that's what you guys said the big idea was yesterday. One more thing before we get started. Back to this plate boundaries. Where can you find those plate boundaries? What resource did I already give you that shows you the plates? Good. So you need to be looking at that map that I gave you that's in your journal. Now, about halfway through class, we're going to take a time out. We're going to pause, see where we are with this. And then at the end of class, we're going to come back, see if we can answer this question, and add it to our chart. Get it? Perfect. So, all right, so halfway through our work today. First question, let's come back for a second. By plotting the points, I wanted you to look for patterns. Has anyone noticed a pattern at this point? I know you're not finished, but do you notice a pattern, Cassidy?
By where the plates connect.
So, okay, all the coordinates seem to be where plates connect. How do you know that? All right, good. So you're comparing your plate boundaries from yesterday, and you're comparing that to what you're plotting right now. Does anybody see anything different? Does anybody disagree with that? No? All right, so I want you to keep working. Don't forget we have to answer this question at the end of class. What happens at plate boundaries? Let me know if you need me as you keep working. At this point, question of the day. What happens at plate boundaries? Who can tell me? Gabe.
Earthquakes.
Seismic activity.
All right, so we know earthquakes, seismic activity takes place. Anything else?
Volcanoes.
And volcanoes. So, what did you guys, we talked about this midway through class. So basically we have found out that, back to your question, Kaylin, earlier, would you say that all this activity is distributed like all over the world, or does it seem to be concentrated in specific places?
It's like specifically concentrated around plate boundaries.
Right, so the plate boundaries, it's not evenly distributed, and that's your first comprehension question on the back. So, if we were to add some type of big idea to our chart for today, who thinks they're confident enough to give me your takeaway? What's your takeaway from today, based on this question? Go for it.
There's a lot of seismic volcanic activities.
Does everybody like that? Seismic and volcanic activity occurs on plate boundaries. Is that everybody good with that?